I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. The deranged responses from Donald Trump following the felony conviction of the Trump Organization on 17 separate felony counts in a New York court. Those deranged responses are rolling in now, and so was waiting for the Truth Social post to happen right away. Instead, we got this bizarre statement on a letterhead of Donald Trump that says Manhattan witch hunt in big all capital letters. And then we got the Truth Social, more deranged statements that followed. Let me read for you right now Trump's statement. Then let me read for you his deranged posts that followed on Truth Social. And then let's just have a minute where we talk about the response by those on the right wing to Donald Trump's company, the Trump Organization's felony conviction. So this is what Donald Trump said on December 6th following the guilty verdict on all counts by the jury. Disappointed with the verdict in Manhattan, but will appeal after looking at millions of pages of documents over many years, much to the detriment of record-setting murder and other forms of violent crime that are taking place in New York City. The government was able to get an employee to plea in order for a very reduced sentence. The case was about Alan Weisselberg committing tax fraud on his personal tax returns, etc., with he and every witness repeatedly testifying that President Trump and the Trump family knew nothing about his actions, which he admits were done solely for his own benefit and with no benefit to the two companies. Why would corporations which knew nothing about Weisselberg's personal tax returns be prosecuted for that person's conduct? There was reliance, all in caps by us, on a then highly respected and expensive accounting firm and law firm to do this work. The accounting firm also did his personal returns, which are not even allowed to legally view. The case is unprecedented and involved no monetary gain to these two corporations. It is a continuation of the greatest political witch hunt in the history of our country. New York City is a hard place to be, quote, Trump, as business and people flee our once great city, exclamation point. So whiny, amateurish, dangerous, completely bizarre, all gaslighting and false, with the statement on the top of this press release, Manhattan witch hunt, all in caps, exclamation point. But like literally everything he said here is completely false. When they go, this case was about Alan Weisselberg committing tax fraud on his personal tax returns. It wasn't. Alan Weisselberg had previously pled guilty to over 11 felony counts. This criminal case was literally about the Trump Organization's support of the fraudulent scheme by Alan Weisselberg. So that statement's false. With he and every witness repeatedly testifying that President Trump and the Trump family knew nothing about his actions. That is false as well. That's not what the witnesses said. And literally the jury questions that they got and what they were told to have to answer to find the elements of the crimes at issue was actually that the Trump Organization was aware of these crimes that were taking place. Then when it says, which he admits were done for his own benefit with no benefit to the two companies, yet again, the verdict form that's given to the juries requires them to make a finding that there was a benefit to the two companies, which is what the jury found after hearing all of the testimonies. The next question he asked, why would corporations which knew nothing about Weisselberg's personal tax returns be prosecuted for that person's conduct? Well, you did know about it. That was a finding that was made by the jury. And why would it be prosecuted? Because it was a crime. It was part of a tax avoidance scheme by the Trump Organization. You then go, there was reliance by us on a then highly respected and expensive accounting firm. I've looked at the disclaimers that were by Mazars, and Mazars very recently said that none of the information that was provided by the Trump Organization or Donald Trump should ever be relied on. But all of the disclaimers on all of the statement of financial conditions by Mazars basically is the disclaimer, we rely 100% on the information provided to us by the Trump Organization. organization, and a Mazars accountant was called as a witness by your lawyer during the trial, and the Mazars accountant said that they were misled by you and that they specifically advised you and others in the Trump organization to not do this, and that doing so would be unlawful and illegal. So literally everything you say in the statement is false. But the other point I want to make as well is you weren't at the trial. You could have been a witness because you like to put forward statements like this on your social media platform. You like to make these statements at these rallies in front of, by the way, increasingly very tiny rallies in front of very small crowds. And you like to tell all of them all this bravado and bluster and all of the lies that you like to tell. But here you had an opportunity, a perfect opportunity to go and speak at the trial and answer the questions and to respond to the questions. Your lawyer could have called you as a witness and you could have said, I knew nothing about this. In fact, at the end of the trial, one of the issues that was resolved by the judge is for the prosecution to argue that you knew about it. And if you actually wanted to rebut it, Donald, you could have showed up in court, but you won't because you are a criminal and you are a coward. Those two things are undisputed. It's the same thing with the New York Attorney General, Letitia James, fraud lawsuit that's filed against you personally and the Trump organization and your adult children. You had the opportunity to be deposed. You tried to avoid and run away for the deposition. And then when you were compelled to sit at a deposition in the special proceeding and New York Attorney General Letitia James asked you the most basic questions, the questions you were asked were, what is the valuation of this property? What is the valuation of that property? What was the appraised value of this property? What was the appraised value of that property? You would think, especially those questions, with all of your bluster and bravado, wouldn't you want to go in there and brag about the valuations of your property and why they are? But no, you cowardly, I plead the fifth, I plead the fifth, I plead the fifth, over 400 times. Then, as Judge Arthur Engoron said, the judge who appointed the independent monitor, retired Judge Barbara Jones, after making a finding that the Trump organization and you were engaged in ongoing and continuous and systematic criminal fraud. As Judge Arthur Engoron said, look, not only did you plead the fifth, but if you wanted to try to rebut the very detailed evidence that the New York Attorney General put forward in their preliminary injunction motion, why wouldn't you put forward any evidence? I mean, have some expert talk about the appraisal versus the valuation. Have one of your staff talk about the appraisal and the valuation and explain why there's a disparity between the two. Have someone put forward evidence. But as Judge Arthur Engoron said, Donald Trump put forward not one iota of evidence to in any way support his defense, just zero evidence in general. You know, and one of the other things to mention here is you talk about Alan Weisselberg committing tax fraud. Like, Alan Weisselberg still works for you to this day. He's still an employee on leave at the Trump organization. And apparently he was celebrating his birthday a few months back with you. So this is the individual who you're saying you're thrown under the bus. I mean, what are you talking about here? Now, after that, I was like, where's the Trump Truth Social posting? Like, when is that going to happen? I'm like, oh, we're just going to get a press release? That's different. But no, we immediately got the Truth Social post. Here's one. Our country is in big trouble. What a mess. Because you were criminally convicted? No, that shows our country is moving in the right direction, Donald, now that you are being held accountable. All caps. I mean, what a deranged person. How about this one? The greatest witch hunt of all time continues over and over again, and the people of this country aren't going to take it much longer. A giant political scam. Oh, the people of this country aren't going to take it much longer? That sounds like a threat to me. Sounds like you are threatening the country with that post. The greatest witch hunt of all time. The people of this country aren't going to take it anymore. Who are you talking about? The 2,000 people who show up on the random fields where you have to hold your rallies now because you didn't actually pay the municipalities the money to hold them in their facilities fees and you refuse to pay them? I mean, is that what's going to happen? Are you trying to cause violence? Are you trying to do exactly what you did on the January 6th? I think that's what you're trying to do. Again, another post. Murder and violent crime is at an all-time high in New York City, and the DA's office has spent almost all of its time and money fighting a political witch hunt for D.C. against, quote, Trump over fringe benefits, something that in the history of our country has never been so tried in court before. Literally every one of all of that is false. That's not what the Manhattan DA has spent all its time on, or not even a lot of its time on. You are one case, Donald. I hate to break it to you, but you're a high-profile case, but you're one of the thousands and tens of thousands of cases that are being filed and brought and prosecuted out of the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. Then you go 2 weeks at trial, yet no murder case has gone to trial in 6 years, much to the consternation of victims, mothers, and families who are devastated that, quote, nothing is being done to bring justice. Too busy on, quote, Donald. Donald Trump just makes stuff up. Donald Trump just lies over and over again, repeatedly gaslighting, threatening people of our country. This is the response of, could you believe that this is a former president of the United States? This is the response of a former president after being convicted on 17 felony counts. You go on a social media platform and put in all caps like a deranged lunatic maniac. What are you talking about? But what do you think? Okay, the New York Post. The New York Post, which claims to be the paper of New York City, one of the main papers of New York City. The Trump organization is found guilty on 17 felony counts in New York City. What does New York Post report on? Some part of the weird right-wing echo chamber about a lawyer who was a Democrat working at Twitter who was fired by Elon Musk because in October of 2020, Twitter wouldn't post dick pics of Hunter Biden. This was so great, as Matthew Gertz commented on Twitter. Would a normal person seeing this on a newsstand have any idea what on earth this was about or why they should care? A photo of Elon Musk, a photo of some lawyer who they fired because they're blaming that the lawyer wouldn't allow the photos of Hunter Biden naked to be posted on Twitter. This is what the right wing is all focused on. This is their new green M&M or their new Mr. Potato Head or their new Dr. Seuss. It's all about Twitter. People are so obsessed and just weird, and it's dangerous. But what we can't lose focus on as the pro-democracy, pro-normal movement here is we don't just need to call out and condemn these things. We need to talk about the issues that matter to American people. So at the end of these videos, I still always want to talk about the things that Democrats are fighting for and the pro-democracy coalition, former Republicans and independents and people not affiliated with political parties, right? We're talking about jobs and better paying jobs and high paying jobs that Americans deserve. We're talking about better working conditions. We're talking about bringing manufacturing jobs back to here in the United States. We're talking about making healthcare affordable to all Americans. We're talking about making education accessible to all Americans. We're talking about real freedoms, a woman's freedom over her body. We're talking about the freedom to marry without the government getting involved and Republicans saying you can't marry this person and you can't marry that person because you're part of the LGBTQ plus community. That's utterly insane and anathema to all conceptions of freedom and liberty and basic decency. And pro-democracy Democrats, we are going to keep fighting for freedom, jobs, healthcare, education, things that matter. Let these MAGA Republicans rant and rave about Twitter and whatever they want to talk about. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hit the subscribe button. We're on our way to 1 million subscribers thanks to your support. And in addition, please check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch, patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Lots of exclusive content there, but most importantly, help grow this independent media platform. Check it out, patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Until next time, I'm Ben Meiselas.
MeidasTouch is unapologetically pro-democracy. And look, we know you are too. So please make sure you check out our best-selling shirt and our best-selling gear, the unapologetically pro-democracy gear. And hey, while you're at it, make sure you check out my favorite shirt and one of our most famous designs. It wasn't rigged, you're just a loser. At store.MeidasTouch.com. That's store.MeidasTouch.com.